Emmanuel Bandele Thompson, Nigerian pharmacologist. Emmanuel B. Thompson is a pharmacologist and educator known for his work regarding treatments for high blood pressure and sickle cell anemia. Both diseases, particularly the latter, have a high rate of incidence among African Americans, and Thompson has published numerous studies of these conditions. In addition, he has conducted important research on drug screening and published a textbook on the subject. Raised in Nigeria, Thompson was inspired by a visit from George Washington Carver to his school and came to the U.S. to study pharmacology when he was in his mid-20s. Emmanuel B. Thompson was born on March 15, 1928, in the town of Zaria, in the northern part of Nigeria, when that country was under British rule. His father ran an all-purpose store in the town for the United Africa Company, which purchased the agricultural products of the area and sold manufactured goods from outside to the locals. It was a lucrative line of work, and Thompson's father was a successful merchant. Thompson, the oldest of 5 children, attended a Roman Catholic school. Throughout his early life, churches would have an influence on his education. In the elementary school, the Irish priests and the Nigerian instructors used heavy doses of discipline along with their teaching. Nonetheless, Thompson was inspired to learn and took an early interest in biology. This interest was piqued when the legendary African-American scientist George Washington Carver visited the school. The latter taught students a variety of novel processes for turning the products of indigenous plants into end products, such as perfume. Given the size of the school, there were some 200 students, and the impact of Carver's reputation. He was in his 70s at the time, having long before made the discoveries which would assure him a place among the greatest American scientists. It is almost certain that the encounter had a great influence on Thompson's later career. For his secondary education, Thompson attended St. Gregory's College, a boarding school in the Nigerian capital Lagos, some 800 miles southwest of Zaria. Given the time, the place, and the traveling conditions, this put him several days' journey away from his family. But with his father's successful business and the emphasis both parents placed on education, it seemed the proper course for the young man's studies. Just as Carver had influenced him before, several teachers at the school would have a profound impact on him. One of these was a Brazilian priest who encouraged his scientific curiosity. Another was a Nigerian physics instructor who taught him the rudiments of electricity and magnetism. The conclusion of high school began a restless period in Thompson's life. He first went to work for the United Africa Company, his father's employer, as a bookkeeper in its Lagos offices. But his mind thrilled to the challenges of science, and he found his work tedious. Soon he sought other employment and obtained a job working for the government at a research laboratory in a northern village studying diseases that affect cattle in the region. The new position seemed like a good choice, given his interests, but after some friction with the director, Thompson left within 3 months of being hired. He moved to the town of Kaduna, where he began teaching science and geography at a Catholic high school, St. John's College. At this point, he was in his early 20s, and realizing that he would have to further his education if he intended to reach his goals, he entered Lagos Yaba School of Pharmacy at the beginning of 1951. Almost 2 years later, in the latter part of 1952, he received a diploma as a technician. At that point, an excited and unexpected opportunity opened up for him. Dr. Desmond Bittinger, a Quaker, had been a missionary in Nigeria for a decade, and when he returned to the U.S., he had become president of Rockhurst College in McPherson, Kansas. Concerned about the futures of the young people he had encountered in Africa, Bittinger had set up a scholarship to assist promising Nigerian students in gaining a higher education in America. The scholarship trustees invited Thompson to come to America, and the young man readily accepted the invitation. Thompson finished his biology degree in 3 years, earning his room and board by working late each night. After graduating from Rockhurst with a Bachelor's of Science in 1955, he entered the University of Missouri in Kansas City. There he met and married Nova Gardner, who was from Kansas, and the couple would eventually have 2 daughters. In 1959, he earned his pharmacy certification and was thus qualified to work as a pharmacist anywhere in the U.S. However, driven by a desire to understand the use of drugs from a theoretical as well as a purely practical standpoint, he opted to continue his education. Therefore, in 1961, Thompson enrolled at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, where he began the work on his Master's of Science in Pharmacology. For the 2 years prior to entering the university, he put away money for his schooling, first by working at the University of Kansas Medical Center, where he was employed as a hospital pharmacist from 1959 to 1960, and later at the Queen of the World Hospital in Kansas City. During this period, he also moonlighted as a drugstore pharmacist at Cundiff Drugstore in Kansas City. During his 2 years at the University of Nebraska, Thompson focused his attention on studying the use of garlic extracts to control high blood pressure, a type of treatment that would become popular in the 1980s and 1990s, with over-the-counter sales of garlic tablets as diet supplements. Earning his Master's of Science in 1963, he went on to the University of Washington in Seattle, where he entered the PhD program in pharmacology. He earned his degree in 1966 with a dissertation entitled "The Action of a Beta Receptor Antagonist on the Positive Chronotropic Response to Nerve Stimulation and Applied Catecholamine in Isolated Rabbit Atria." In his writing, he discussed new ways of treating high blood pressure, in this case through the use of synthetic compounds which would inhibit nerve messages to the heart. Having obtained his doctorate, Thompson went to work as a senior research pharmacist at Baxter Laboratories in Morton Grove, Illinois, near Chicago. In this capacity, he developed a variety of general anesthetics, one of which gained use among surgeons in Japan. Following a 3-year stint with Baxter, Thompson became an assistant professor at the University of Illinois Medical Center's College of Pharmacy, where the class of 1971 voted him Teacher of the Year. Also in 1971, he began working part-time at Westside Veterans Administration Hospital in Chicago as its principal researcher and consultant. His work at the University of Illinois, however, would continue to be his primary occupation for the next quarter century. In 1973, Thompson became an associate professor, and though his base remained in the College of Pharmacy, he also taught classes in the schools of public health and associated medical sciences, and in the College of Nursing. An occasional lecturer at the Illinois College of Pediatric Medicine and the Chicago State University School of Nursing, he published a textbook called Drug Bioscreening in 1985. A revised edition saw print in 1990. In addition to his work on high blood pressure, Thompson in the 1980s and 1990s continued to research treatments for sickle cell anemia. As of the late 1990s, there was no cure for the disease, which primarily affects African Americans. But in literally dozens of papers on this and high blood pressure, Thompson suggested methods of treating it. Perhaps hearkening back to the example of Dr. Carver, he has also conducted vital research in the area of screening tropical plants for their medicinal uses. Thompson retired from teaching in 1997, but continues to consult with hospitals. He is a member of the New York Academy of Science, the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy, and the American Pharmaceutical Association. He lives in Chicago. Citations are in the description.